Hey everybody, it's Mike from howtolandanyjob.com. Welcome, welcome. It's a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and this is the third in a series of Facebook Lives this week. So, really looking forward to getting your questions today. Really looking forward to share different job search success advice that we didn't cover in the previous videos. And so on some occasion, I'm going to refer you back to the videos from the previous 2 days. If you're just finding me for the first time, you can find all of my old videos in my free Facebook group. And the name of the free Facebook group is howtolandanyjob.com when everyone says you can't. And so definitely join that group if you are not a member of it. Now, don't get confused. There is a How to Land Any Job page, which you can like. However, you want to be a member of the Facebook group too, because that's where everything's stored. It's searchable. And also you're going to be able to ask your own questions there as well. So definitely go ahead and join that group if you're not already a member of it. And I have an exciting bunch of content planned for today, and my priority is your questions. And so if you have something that you want to learn or you're wondering about or you want to ask about, you definitely want to get your question in the comments early so that we don't run out of time and I don't miss it before the hour's up. So keep that in mind. Also, if you are new to the Facebook Lives, I love knowing where people are checking in from. So please, even if you've checked into a previous video, please drop in your name, the metropolitan area that you're checking in from. And then if you have a question, go ahead and share it right then and there. But I also like to know, what job function are you trying to get? Is that a career switch for you? And if it's a career switch, what you're trying to switch from, and then also the industry or industries that are your primary focus. So I just need to get some logistics set up to get things rolling, but please go ahead and start dropping those things in the comment window immediately. And that way we can make sure we get to them. All right. So again, a couple of you just joined. My name is Mike Tomasello from howtolandanyjob.com, and we're going to be doing live question and answer today on job search success, following up on the videos we've been doing the past couple of days. So, all righty. So, welcome again. So, some of the comments that I've been getting from job searchers recently is that some of the stuff that I teach seems rather basic, and I'll admit that's very true. I teach things that are very basic for a reason. One, I know they work because I've tested them thousands and thousands of times. And the other reason why I teach them is 95% of job searchers are not using even the basic techniques. So also, there's some dispute about so-called career experts about what the right basics are. So you could go onto the internet, you could read 10 different articles on, let's say, resumes, and you're potentially getting 5 completely different opinions in terms of resume strategy. Well, I understand your confusion. It's kind of frustrating for me. And that's a big reason in terms of why I started this business, is I was frustrated as a former executive recruiter for many years and as a former hiring manager at the Fortune 100 level, as well as the startup level. I learned what things work and what. And in addition to that experience, I also went out into the job market and tested these things thousands and thousands of times. And I found out some of the stuff that the so-called experts, even people that were writing for Forbes or that had books published, they were publishing things that didn't work very well. And so A lot of the reasons why I have the free Facebook group, why I do these Facebook lives, is I want to dispel some of the myths that are out there so that you guys know what actually works. And so, and going back to those basic things, like I don't say that to, hopefully none of you are offended by that I'm saying a lot of you aren't using the basics, because I work with executives all the way up to the senior vice president level. And even when the senior vice presidents sit down with me, even though they have probably hired hundreds, if not thousands of people in their career, I find a lot of the senior vice presidents, some smart people that have gone to Ivy League schools or top tier schools, a lot of them are not using the basics either. So that's why I make sure we cover the basics. And then for people that are ready for more advanced stuff, I definitely go ahead and teach that in my course as well. You can read all about my course on howtolandanyjob.com. So in one of the previous videos, we were talking about, well, how many of you follow up on your applications or your emails that you submit to people when you're reaching out for a job opportunity, or any opportunity for that matter? And it's always a horribly low number. It's usually less than 3% of people follow up. Well, the fact of the matter is, and I know you hear this from me a lot, the average job in the United States gets 100 applications per position, 100. That's a small company that no one's ever heard of. If you're talking a larger company like a Caterpillar, like a Honeywell, like 1,000 per position. And then think of the most attractive company in your industry, potentially 2,000 applicants per position. So when an employer is receiving that large volume, you have to do as many different things to stand out as possible. Well, one thing that I threw out in one of my videos over the past couple of days is, well, why are you not calling to follow up on the application? Unless they explicitly put in the instructions, no calls, you should be calling. So, and then one of my viewers said, well, isn't everybody doing that? No, less than 2% of people are doing it. Most people are lazy. Most people aren't willing to do the basics. Well, some other people have said to me, well, that's not unique enough. Well, yes, it is. It might seem boring or basic to you, but if less than 5% of all job searchers are doing it, man, like it's going to help you stand out. So I saw one of my friends joined who does a lot of stuff with the athletic world. And I want to tell you a little bit about a very famous man that you may or may not know. His name's John Wooden. So I don't know if you know anything about basketball, but even if you hate basketball, even if you hate sports, please pay attention. This is an important story. So John Wooden is the most successful college basketball coach of all time. So John Wooden won 10 national championships over a 12-year period. So some people are lucky to win 80% of their games or 50% of their games. John Wooden won over 80%, over probably 90% of the years that he was coaching, he won a national championship. Now, someone might get lucky winning a national championship once, but if you're winning 10 out of 12 years, and he actually won 7 years consecutive, you must be pretty good. So why am I telling you about John Wooden and all the championships he won? Well, John Wooden was working with some of the best players some of the best high school players in the world wanted to come play for him because he was so good. Well, the first day of practice, what John Wooden would teach is he would teach them how to tie their shoes. No joke. Every practice, he would teach them how to tie their shoes. Now, it might seem silly or a little basic, but if you think about it, well, if your shoes aren't tied properly, you might get some friction in them. You might develop some blisters. Your shoes might fall off. Your shoelace might come untied. You might trip on it. And so sometimes the basics have spiraling effects. So if you're not doing the basics, they can really affect you. So for those of you that just joined, I'm just explaining the importance of the basics in the job search or any area of life, using an example from the most successful college basketball coach of all time. So if you're not having success in the job search, it's usually not because you don't know some advanced technique. It's usually because you don't know the basics, or you're not taking enough action and not implementing the basics. But if you do want to ask me advanced questions today, please feel free to do that. So I see not have a bunch of shy people on the line today. So do me a favor and check in, drop in that comment window. What metropolitan area are you checking in from? What area or job function do you work in, whether you're doing a career switch or not, from what to what, and then also any industries that are particularly interesting to you. That's always super helpful for me. Also, if you have questions about job search, resumes, LinkedIn, follow-up, interviews, getting more interviews, negotiation, whatever you can possibly think of, now's the time to ask it because I don't necessarily do a lot of these. So I'm going to move on to some other stuff. Another common objection that I get in the job search from people is, well, I really don't have a lot of time. I mean, I have a family. I'm conducting a job search during work. I have all these other commitments or whatnot. I totally get it. Sometimes you got to do the best you can. Now, but for a lot of you, that's actually secretly an excuse. Because in reality, even if you're short on time, you can make a lot of progress in your job search if you're being consistent. Consistency is more important than the amount of time. So if you're super busy, start with 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes a day, and do one thing every single day toward your job search. 20 minutes a day. So it might not seem like a lot of time, but it's a lot more than the zero amount of time that you're spending on some days. So 20 minutes a day is 2 hours and 20 minutes a week. So I prefer consistency. I think it gets momentum building for you. But if for whatever reason you miss a day or whatever, then make up that 20 minutes another day so that you have a block of time or whatnot. Which brings me to the other reason. Life happens, things come up or whatever. You need to send a message to your brain that your job search is important or your career is important, or if you're trying to get a promotion or more money, that is important. The only way that your brain and your body is going to know that is if you actually schedule time into your calendar when you're going to do these things. Hey, at Monday at 8 p.m., I am going to work on improving my resume. Tuesday at 7 p.m., I should have my resume done by now. I'm going to figure out who I'm going to reach out to and who I'm going to apply to. So figure out your minimum 2 hours and 20 a week, because anyone, even someone with a family, should be able to squeeze in 20 minutes a day. All right. Now, obviously, the more amount of time that you dedicate to your job search, the better off you're going to be. So if you can do 3 hours in a week or 5 hours in a week, the faster you're going to be. If you're unemployed or underemployed, you should definitely be treating your job search like a full-time job. Yeah. So I'm going to pause on that topic because I see a question from Jen. Jen, thanks for your question. Jen says she constantly gets rejected by the ATS. How do I stop this and actually get an interview? Yeah, good question. So for those of you that aren't familiar, ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System. Applicant Tracking System. You don't really need to know that. All you need to know is the Applicant Tracking System is where your resume goes when you apply online or when a recruiter sticks your resume or application into a database, and then they sort of determine what's going on there. So there's a number of things going on. So one, you can never forget about the large amount of applications that I talked about earlier. So 100 applicants in a small company, 1,000 applicants in a larger company, 2,000 applicants in your dream company, potentially. So realistically, there could be 50 people that have a great resume or 100 people that have a great resume when you're talking those numbers that are also applying through an applicant tracking system. Now, are there ways to game the system and increase the odds? There are, but if there's a large number of also awesome people that are applying, eventually you got to realize it's not the most effective way to apply, even though it's misleading. You see all these jobs posted online and you assume that's the best way to do it. It's actually the worst way to get an interview. Okay, so let's talk about some basic strategies. So, and every additional level of detail you go or extra effort that you're willing to go, the more you're increasing your odds of getting seen. So on its most basic level, well, and we talked about this, I believe, in yesterday's video. So we talked about measuring keywords. So definitely go to the website I recommend is jobscan.co, and you can compare a job description to your LinkedIn profile, or you can compare your job description to a resume. Well, one, you're going to see what keywords are missing from your resume, and you're going to want to add as many of those keywords as possible. Now, that's potentially a 1-hour discussion in itself. I cover stuff like that in more detail in my course that starts August 6th. You can find out more about the course at howtolandanyjob.com. But go to JobScan and start there. All right. Now, again, we're still talking about potentially large numbers, 100 applicants, 1,000 applicants. So eventually a lot, and I guarantee you more people are asking me about keywords and how to do that than they are asking me about what's even better than keywords. Well, what's even better than keywords is getting your resume in the hands of a human being who works in the department that you want to work in. A human being. So what I mean by that is, well, unless you want to be a recruiter or want to work in the recruiting department, the recruiter is actually not the best person for you to be applying to or getting your resume to. It's actually someone that works in your department because they're more likely to work with the hiring manager who that job reports to. So if you only make one change today in your job search, apply to people that work in the department. So we talked about that in some previous videos in terms of how to identify people. I go through that in detail in my course as well, but if you can't afford to pay for the course, that's fine. Just go back and listen to the previous videos. You'll get some more details on that. So what are some ways to do that? So my research has found emails are way more effective than LinkedIn messages or any other social media messages. So use the previous videos to track down a person's email address, use LinkedIn to track down a name of someone that works in the department that you want to work in, and email that person directly with your cover letter or your pitch in terms of why you're a good fit, and attach your resume that way. So if you only do that strategy, you're going to get way more interviews than just applying through an applicant tracking system. So Jen, since you're being proactive and you're the first one to ask questions, if you have follow-up questions or additional questions you want to ask, definitely go ahead and drop those in the chat window. I'm more than willing to talk about those as well. But I'm hoping that that one technique helps you. Okay. Now, to go to an additional level of depth, so in addition to someone in the department, is trying to identify the hiring manager. Now, this next part might be a little bit more intimidating for some of you out there, but it's more effective than what I just recommended, which is more effective than trying to apply online or through a recruiter. So the next level of additional success is identifying a hiring manager. So not just someone that works in the department, not just someone that works in the company, but a hiring manager. So again, you can go on LinkedIn and searching for the company that there's an opening for, or even that doesn't appear to be hiring. You can contact hiring managers that might not have openings and do this. And aim for, sometimes, so not every manager, not every person who has a job title of manager actually manages someone. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So sometimes you have to go to the senior manager or even the director level to find someone that manages a team. So search for your area of expertise. So let's say you want to be in the finance department, the marketing department, operations, accounting, whatever, nursing, whatever it might be for you. And look for someone that is at the director level or above. Figure out that person's email address and whatnot. Now, even if you guess wrong, there's a chance that they're going to forward it to the right hiring manager or someone that is hiring in the department. Now, if you want a little bit more details in terms of what's even more effective, in my course, I give you the actual template of what to put in the email subject line, what to say, how to structure it, how short to keep it or how long to keep it. And then you just plug in some words about your background and you have a successful template. So that's something that I definitely do. So welcome. I see a lot of people have joined today. That's awesome. Nicole, I believe Nicole's checking in from Illinois. John, Jacksonville. Robin in Long Beach. Karen, not sure where you're from. Feel free to drop that in the comment window. Kelly in Chicago, Fernando in Brazil, Anna Marie in Florida. So welcome to all of you. And again, I am answering any of your questions about job search. Maybe you're a little demotivated and need a pick-me-up. Maybe you want to know why you're not getting a response, like Jen talked about. Happy to address things, how to get more interviews, how to do better in your interviews since you get more job offers. Go ahead and drop those questions in the chat window. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to rant and rave in a good way on the stuff that I think will help you the most. So again, if you're coming to me for the first time, this is a 1 hour long video. So if you missed the first 22 minutes, please go back, schedule time on your calendar to watch the whole hour. Also, if you're not a member of my free Facebook group, How to Land Any Job When Everyone Says You Can't, join that. All my videos and information is stored in there. You can also ask free questions in there, even if it's at 2 a.m. That is different from my Facebook page, which you would like. So make sure you join the Facebook group. And you're welcome to follow my personal page and friend me as well. So another topic I want to talk about is, well, people say to me, well, I want a better job, or I want more money, or I want to switch careers, or I think I want to do that. Well, the problem with that is a lot of you don't want it badly enough, or a lot of you are afraid to want it that badly. And the fact of the matter is, life rarely gives you what you want until you're 100% committed to putting the effort into something to make it happen. And so Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, which, by the way, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, it's one of the best books ever written. Napoleon Hill interviewed hundreds and hundreds of the most successful people in the world at the time and found out about them and found out what all the most successful people had in common. And one of the traits that Napoleon Hill determined that the most successful people had was they had a burning desire to achieve what they wanted to achieve. They had a burning desire. So for you, so maybe you want to crank up your emotion a little bit, find something that gets you excited, find something that inspires you. Maybe it's feeding your family. Maybe it's your family or your grandchildren being able to go to the best possible university in the world, and it takes money for that. Maybe you want to treat yourself to the best trips in the world. Whatever inspires you, you got to find that so that you develop that burning desire. Or maybe you're angry because you're not getting responses. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of healthy anger as long as it's not coming out in the interview or networking process. And get angry. Hey, I got to do better. I got to put in more of an effort. So, I see Columbia's joined us. Welcome. Love having you. Again, free form open questions today. Go ahead and drop in the comment window, and I'm more than happy to address it down. So now, next thing I want to talk about is a lot of you are not clear on what your goal is, and even more of you have not written down your goals. So hopefully you have your goal. So let's say you want to be a marketing analyst in the technology industry, or maybe you want to be maybe you want to be a chief marketing officer, either someday or in the future in consumer products. Maybe you want to be a corporate financial manager. Whatever your goal is, write it down and look at it every single day, 3 times a day for the next 30 days. Now, preferably longer until you get the goal, but it might feel a little awkward for some of you, but if you're looking at that goal every single day for 30 days, man, your brain's going to be like, oh, she actually wants me to think about this all the time. She's serious about this now. Well, now your brain's going to actively start thinking about how to help get you that goal. And you're going to be thinking about it so much, you might even get a little angry and be like, oh man, I haven't made progress on it. I need to take more action. So a study was done of people that graduated from Harvard, and they found less than 5% of people actually made goals and wrote them down. And I forget the exact number, but I think 60% of people wrote their goals down. Well, the people that had goals were dramatically more successful in their careers and making more money than the people that didn't have goals. The people that had goals and wrote them down were 10 times more successful than the people that had goals but didn't write them down. So I know this sounds like basic stuff, but if you're not implementing the basics, go back, listen to that John Wooden story about tying shoelaces. If you're not implementing the basics, you're going to struggle. All right. Oh, I love this question. How do you keep your composure in a job interview? All right. Getting nervous on the phone and in-person interviews, performance anxiety. Great question. Thank you for trusting me with this question. So first of all, I want to let you know you're not alone. I'd estimate at least 80%, if not 90%, of the people that I talk to about job search, and I work with some really successful people, get nervous during a job interview, including a lot of the vice presidents and senior vice presidents I work with, because the fact of the matter is, job interviews they're not an everyday skill. So you could be amazing at the work you do, but because you don't interview for a living, you don't get paid to interview, it's not a skill that you have as much practice in as some of the other skills that you have. So now anxiety, nervousness, those are all derivatives or different degrees of what I define as fear. If you prefer anxiety or nerves, that's fine. But anytime you're dealing with an emotion like that, the emotion of anxiety, nervousness, fear, that's trying to protect you and keep you safe. It's trying to protect you and keep you safe. So one of the messages that's sending to you is you might not be prepared enough. And so one of the basics that even I didn't like doing back when I was interviewing was I didn't like to prepare for my interviews. So what I force every single one of my clients to do, and whether you're paying me or not, I consider you a client. Think of the 5 questions that you are most likely to get asked in an interview, and write them down, and then write out the answer that you think is the best, word for word. Don't write bullet points. Write out the answer that you think is best, word for word, as best you can, and do that for 5. Once you've done that, practice saying them out loud, seeing, because sometimes when you say them out loud, as opposed to thinking them out or reading them on paper, sometimes you uncover different stuff. And we're all different types of learners, visual, auditory, whatnot. The more aspects of reading it or writing it or saying it out loud, the better you're going to determine, and the more comfort you're going to feel with your answers, because you're afraid your answers might not be right. So doing that additional level of work, and if you don't have a lot of time, start with 20 minutes a day preparing for your interviews. Ideally, I recommend, especially if you haven't done an interview for a while, try to spend 2 or 3 hours preparing for interviewing in general. And then for each individual interview after that, maybe you only need 30 minutes or an hour after that, because chances are you're reusing a lot of your interviews. So more practice is going to make you more comfortable. Now, some other great things, if you meditate, highly recommend meditating before. If you don't meditate, that's fine. I recommend being very choosy about what you put into your brain before an interview, because anything you put into your brain or anything that's going into your ears or your eyes before an interview is going to affect how you perform, your nerves and whatnot. So a couple different examples. So try not to listen to any music with words in it, because unless you're very clear on those words being positive and contributing to an interview, you're taking a risk that you accidentally put some words into your brain that aren't positively supporting you. So if you're a very music-oriented person, I recommend listening to acoustical music, and that's a great way to do. Don't talk radio, podcasts, horrible in the hours leading up to your interview. Okay, I would rather you be sitting in silence and just practicing your breathing, or even practicing some of the stuff out loud. Like you can even do it as you're driving and just say, "Hey, Susan, tell me about yourself," and then practice saying out loud on the drive to the interview. That's going to calm down your nerves. Another thing that helps calm nerves and anxiety is just putting yourself in a good mood. So I don't know, think of the person that you love the most in your life. I don't care if it's a significant other, a friend, a family member, a kid. Look at a photo of them that just brings you joy and breathe deeply into that. And that's going to put you in a better space for the interview. Last but not least, because basics are important, get to the interview freaking early, because you're creating extra nervous energy for yourself if there's even a hint that you might be a couple minutes late. So overestimate the amount of traffic there might be. Get to the parking lot early and sit in the parking lot and calm yourself down. Go over your interview answers or one of the other exercises that I just said. I probably have about 10 more things that I recommend for calming nerves, but those are probably the most important. What you're doing immediately before the interview and getting there early so you don't have a lot of nervous energy, and then the level of preparation you do. The amazing thing that happens with my clients that prepare, and once they have their answers figured out in terms of what they think are good answers, they start to gain more confidence, because they're like, oh, I do have a good answer. I do know what I'm going to say. I do have stuff to offer value. And that's the stuff that's usually messing with you. So thanks for the great question, Jen. Fantastic question. For those of you that are finding me a little bit late, again, I'm Mike Tomasello with howtolandanyjob.com. We're doing a one hour video today. So if you missed the first 34 minutes, definitely schedule 35 minutes on your calendar. Go back and listen to the part you missed, we already covered like 6 or 7 different cool things, so want to make sure you missed it. Also, there were videos over the past couple of days where we covered different topics. So go back and if you're ever unsure where to get my videos or all my stuff, join my free Facebook group. It's called How to Land Any Job When Everyone Says You Can't. It's different than my Facebook page, How to Land Any Job, so that you like the Facebook group, you join or add yourself as a member. So make sure you're definitely in the group, because that's where all of my stuff goes. And you can ask questions anytime, even if it's 3:30 in the morning, and I'll come back and answer it when I'm awake. So if you've just joined us, please go ahead and drop what metropolitan area you're checking into in the comment window, what job function you're trying to get, or if you're trying to switch from a job function to a different job function, let me know that. And same with industries. So that always helps me give better examples when I'm talking. So we already covered a lot of good stuff. We talked about why a lot of you aren't doing the basics. We talked about calming nerves, especially when it comes to interviewing. How do you get around that dreaded applicant tracking system or online applications, which I call the black hole of interviewing. We talked about scheduling your time and how to do that when you don't have a lot of time. So another common problem I want to talk about while I'm waiting more of your questions to come up is so a lot of you are spending time on the wrong stuff. So if in case it wasn't clear from my earlier comments about applicant tracking systems and applying online, the least productive thing that you can be doing in your job search, especially if you're short on time, is sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours on end and looking at job postings. Well, one, there's something about a computer screen that's sort of addictive, and you see all these possibilities and your brain's like, oh, there might be something even better. My dream job might be even better. So it's kind of, if you think about when you get a text or a social media notification, your brain gets a dopamine rush that makes you feel good temporarily, but at the end of hours and hours of looking at job postings, you find out you haven't necessarily done much, or you feel crappy or whatever. So don't believe the initial dopamine rush of looking at job postings that you're being effective, because you're not. I tell my clients, if you are spending multiple hours a day on your job search, which hopefully those of you that are part-time or full-time job searchers, so let's say you're spending 3 to 5 hours per day. Well, no more than 1 hour per day should be spent looking at job postings. Now, if you're spending 2 hours or less on your job search per day, then that number should be even smaller. You shouldn't be spending more than 30 minutes per day. Because the fact of the matter is, again, it goes back to the sooner you get your resume to a human being who works in your department, the better off you're going to be. So I don't care if that's emailing someone in the department, LinkedIn messaging, asking family and friends for people that work in the department that you want to work in or the company that you want to work in. Any method of reaching out to someone that works at the company or in the department is better than reaching out to no human being at all. So never, ever forget that. So other things about job posting, we talked about the large number of applicants and whatnot. Another thing a lot of people don't realize about job postings is 80% of the job postings, 80% of the jobs that exist are not even posted to begin with. A lot of the best jobs at the best companies that pay the best, they're not posted to begin with. Because ideally, I always put on my employer hat, and you should always put on your employer hat or your vice president hat and say, all right, if they got 100 people to choose from or 1,000 people to choose from, how are they thinking about your application? How are they thinking about the person that's best for them? And if they have 100 people to choose from, it's likely more, but let's just say 100 for simplicity, then they're going to try to narrow that down as best they can. Well, one way for them to narrow that down is getting recommendations from people they work with or work in their department. So even if you're reaching out to strangers or emailing strangers, at least you're reaching out to a human being that is 1 degree away from the hiring manager. So earlier in the video, I talked about even more effective strategies, and I cover that in my course that's launching Monday, August 6th, which you can read more about at howtolandanyjob.com. And I know some of you are thinking, well, I know a lot about job search already. A lot of the stuff I teach is stuff that I have not read about on the internet on Forbes, on Huffington Post, wherever you go for your job search stuff. I speak to college career centers all over the country. I work with senior level executives, and a lot of them are like, oh my God, I've never heard that before, and I've interviewed thousands of people. So this is all stuff that I've tested to make sure that it works, because there's a lot of cool new ideas out there, and I'm happy to talk about some of those cool new ideas. But do you want what's cool, or do you want what works? And so that's all the stuff that I teach in the course, and I give you templates for what to say, what to do, how to do it, what's the best use of your time, how to manage your time, stuff like that. So normally to work with me one-on-one, it normally costs somewhere between $1,200 and $3,000. I know that's a lot of money for some of you, and that's why I created the course, because I wanted to make it affordable for everybody. So through Monday, and I actually extended the deadline through Monday, so Monday is the drop-dead deadline for signing up at this price, only $387. Now that might still seem like a lot to a lot of you, but if you think about the coffees you buy or the energy drinks you buy or the entertainment that you sign up for, well, chances are you're spending way more money on those things than you are investing in your future and making even more money and being more successful. So if you're underpaid by $10,000 annually, you're losing $833 of additional income per month. So the cost of the course gets covered in your first month on the job, in the new job. Even if you only get a $5,000 raise, that's over $400 a month, and you're still making up the cost of the course in that. Now, if you sign up after Monday, the cost of the course goes up to $487. So definitely get in that price savings while you can. So other things that are going to help you manage your job search and time a little bit better, because I know a lot of you are struggling with what to do next. Well, first thing you should do is go back and watch the other videos, because I'm trying to minimize talking about things that I've already talked about recently for those of you that are dedicated and watching all of the videos. So if you're short on time, choose the top 3 things regarding your job search that you need to do next. And again, prioritize those by what are the actions that are going to get me face-to-face with a hiring manager as soon as possible? Or what are the things that are going to maximize my chances of speaking with someone who is a hiring manager or works in the department verbally? Try to base your decisions on what to prioritize by that. Choose 3 things that you're going to do every week. If you have a bit more time in your job search, like if you're actively working hard and you really want results more quickly, choose 3 things a day that you're going to do on your job search. Identify what's the number 1 priority, and whatever you do, work on that number 1 priority for as many hours as you have until you get that done, and focus on getting that number 1 priority first. The problem is our brains can only handle so much information, and if we don't consciously make that decision beforehand, our brain's like, wait, what am I doing today? I'm not quite sure. Oh, I just got a text message. Oh, I just got an email message. Let me go check out that. So help your brain out, help yourself out, and narrow out what are your top 3 priorities and what's your number 1 priority in your job search, or what's your number 1 priority in your career, and focus on accomplishing that first. And you're going to be a lot more productive with your time management, especially those of you that have families or full-time jobs or whatnot. But that's great advice for all of you, even if you're doing your job search as a full-time job. So again, if you've just joined me, welcome. I see some more people from Chicago have joined, San Diego, Bay Area, Madison, people from Colombia, Brazil. Now, the vast majority of my advice is based on working with United States hiring managers. And if you're looking to go internationally, or you work or live internationally, I do know that this stuff works internationally because my clients tell me so. So if you were curious about that. So if you did join a little bit late, go back and watch the previous 45 minutes to learn about the 9 or 10 things that you already missed. And there's still 15 minutes left to drop in your questions about job search, interviewing. We had some questions about how do you get around the dreaded applicant tracking system earlier. So if you have follow-up questions about that, we talked about nerves and how do you calm your nerves so that you can be better in an interview. We talked about managing your time, focus, having that burning desire. And so drop those additional questions in the comment window so that I can get to them, because I'd rather cover the stuff that's important to you than just talk nonstop. But so going back to the burning desire and the difference between, well, I kind of want more money. I'd kind of like to switch careers. Well, kind of isn't making a decision. It isn't making a commitment to yourself. It isn't making a commitment to your family or a successful and happier future. A commitment is saying, I am going to do everything in my power. I'm going to do everything in my power to get this goal and achieve this goal. And again, be clear on what that goal is. I want to make at least $5,000 more annually in income, and I want to make it to the director level in finance in such and such industry. So the more specific you are and clear with your goals, the more progress you're going to make. So one story I don't think I've told on the videos lately is sort of a story of 2 awesome people. So if you are struggling right now in your job search or your career, it's not because you're not awesome. It could be you're mismanaging your time, or you're working on the right stuff, or you don't have enough focus. So 2 awesome people, both went to the same MBA program. I'm going to call one person Matt, and I'm going to call the other person Bob. So Matt was getting his MBA. He was really crystal clear on what he wanted to do. So he wanted to go into finance in the technology industry. Bob wanted to keep things flexible because Bob wanted a job as soon as possible. And so Bob wanted to keep things as soon as possible, so he didn't set specific goals. And he's like, well, I'm just going to see what's out there, apply to a lot of different things, and see what happens. Now, other things I left out about the story is they both had fairly equal amounts of work experience. Matt had worse grades, worse test scores, probably barely got into business school. And Matt was getting C's and occasional B's. Well, Bob was getting pretty much, I believe he was getting straight A's. He had a top test scores. He had like a 700 GMAT. He was on scholarship. And both Matt and Bob were really likable guys. Now, here's the sad part. So Bob took a year and a half to land a job after business school. Matt found a job within a few months despite changing his goal around, and got his dream job working for a dream company, making $20,000 more annually than the average MBA student that went into finance and technology. So what I'm trying to convey with this story is, and this is a true story, the names were changed to protect the guilty. The moral of this story is, if you are clear on what you want and you're committed to it and you're focused on that, it's going to make it easier for you to manage your time. It's going to make it easier for you to communicate the right things. It's going to make it easier for you to present yourself better in an interview, present yourself better in a resume, present yourself better in an email or a cover letter, present yourself better in networking. That's the power of focus, and being clear on your goal is everything's magnified. The last part of the story that I might leave you with is, so I'm not sure if you guys have heard of Malcolm Gladwell, but best-selling nonfiction author, brilliant guy, PhD from Stanford. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Outliers. And what Malcolm Gladwell did was he studied a variety of different research regarding what makes people successful. And one, he discovered a lot of stuff was based on luck, or stuff that you wouldn't even think of. But as I talked about in the video yesterday, which I recommend you go back and watch, I talked about controlling what you can control. And then I give you a list of like 10, 15 things that you can control. Well, Malcolm Gladwell in the book Outliers, he talks about the rule of 10,000 hours to be an expert. The rule of 10,000 hours to be an expert. Well, you might never want to be an expert, which is fine, but if you want to maximize your chances of getting hired for a particular job, the more you come off as an expert, or the more you come off as knowledgeable or experienced in a given area, the better off you're going to be. I think we all can agree on that. So what Malcolm Gladwell determined is that to get to that level of achievement, or super successful level, it takes approximately 10,000 hours of practice. Now, I'm not suggesting you need to spend 10,000 hours on the job search, or even 10,000 hours on whatever it is you want to do. But the fact of the matter is, the more hours you put in, the better off you're going to be, the quicker you're going to get there. So if you think only about focus, so if you're trying to decide between marketing, sales, customer service, business development, even though there's an overlap in skill sets a little bit, and maybe you even have experience in all of those things. Well, let's pretend it takes 100 hours, might probably less, but let's pretend it takes 100 hours in your job search to land a job. Well, if you're taking 10 hours and devoting it to business development, and 10 hours devoting it to marketing, and 10 hours devoting it to customer service, you're actually not getting to 100 hours as quickly as possible, because you're dividing your hours among a variety of different objectives. So you're actually slowing yourself down by not having that focus in your goal. So last call for questions. So if you do have questions, and it doesn't have to be questions on what I'm talking about, it could be questions on job search, interviewing, resumes, LinkedIn, email, follow-up, whatever you want to ask questions on is fine. Just don't ask me my favorite color. Drop them in the comment window, because I'm going to be closing up in the next couple of minutes. So if you are finding out about me for the first time, Mike from howtolandanyjob.com. If you want to find out more about my credibility, why what I say is important, why what I say I know it works. If you want to find out about my course and my group coaching program and how that's structured, go to to spelled out T-O, howtolandanyjob.com. You can also find that off my social media pages. And join my Facebook group because you can get free advice in there. All the videos are stored in there, and you can ask questions at 4 a.m. in the morning. The Facebook group is How to Land Any Job When Everyone Says You Can't. That is different from the Facebook page, which you like the page and join the group. I cover different stuff. If you like the convenience of seeing what's going on in my personal and business life, you can follow my personal Facebook page at When Everyone Says You Can't. I'm also on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, etc. So all of those are available to you. Now, some people messaged me recently and they said, well, I'm not sure if I can afford $387 for a course. Well, again, the price goes up to $487 starting Tuesday, goes up to $587 after August 4th. And, for the cost of a coffee a day, it's affordable. So credit cards are accepted on that. Now, I'm more than happy to help you for free in these 5 free Facebook live chats, in my free Facebook group, commenting on social media and asking me questions there. And if you want a little bit of extra help, structure, if you want step-by-step on what to do and what not to do in an order, the best place is the course, because I have to go into a lot of detail. I need to be able to show you things on my computer screen. I need to be able to give you templates, and I just can't effectively do that in a video. So normally to work with me one-on-one, it would be $1,200 to $2,000. But again, only $387. You make that back on your first month in your new job. Okay. You could even argue that for every month you're getting underpaid, you're losing between $400 to $800. So think about your investment that way. So if for whatever reason you still don't have the money, you can't make it work, I totally get it. More than happy to help you for free on these things. And go out there and get help from other people. So I didn't talk about it much today, but networking, and when I say networking, I don't mean going to networking events. I mean building relationships with people one-on-one. Could be alumni of the schools you've graduated from. Networking is simply not begging for jobs or asking for favors, but it's building relationships and learning. And if you build relationships and you care what the other person has to say, they start to like you and they start to want to help you. And if you keep in touch with those people, you build an army of people that are looking out for you constantly. And then everything magnifies and job leads start to come to you sooner. Now, not everybody gets the same level of success because not everybody implements everything that they hear. So my clients that are most successful, they implement as many different things as they can that they understand. If they don't understand, they go back and ask questions, but they at least test it out and try to make it work. So, they tend to put in more effort. So if you do all of these things, or even if you do 50 to 80% of these things, amazing results. I had one client who was looking for a new job for a year and a half. He was working as a barista at Starbucks. He really wanted to work with higher education and helping people do better in college. 11 days after he hired me, and this kind of blows my mind, 11 days after he hired me, he had his first job offer. Now, that's an exceptional result, and not everyone gets that, but it's in the realm of possibility. Other clients regularly, within 30 days, after not having any job offers for 6 months, 3 months, a year, hired me within 30 days, or took the course and within 30 days had multiple job offers. My favorite is a guy named Albert. He was in a couple of my videos recently. Albert received 10 job offers over the past 3 years, 2 different searches. So he got 6 job offers in one search. Then he got a little bit more selective the second time. And because he was more selective about what he wanted, he actually turned down some opportunity to interview in some places. He still got 4 job offers. So this stuff works if you implement it, but you got to implement it, everybody. So keep your eye. So make sure you're subscribed to the Facebook page, How to Land Any Job, and like the page, or follow me on my personal page. And definitely, most importantly, join the Facebook group, How to Land Any Job When Everyone Says You Can't, because that's where when I announce when I'm doing more Facebook Lives. I'm going to try to do a couple more Facebook Lives next week. And then after that, my course starts. I'm not going to be able to do them as often. So definitely keep an eye out on Facebook and put those future Facebook Lives in your calendar so you don't miss them. So thanks, everybody. I enjoyed having you. Thanks for checking in from Madison, Brazil, Orange County, Los Angeles, Bay Area, Peoria, Illinois, Chicago, Arlington, Texas. Thanks for all of you for checking in. If you missed the video, it's going to be live, and it's going to be the recording's going to be available in just a couple seconds. Go back and watch it. Thanks, guys. Mike Tomasello with howtolandanyjob.com. Always remember, I'm rooting for you, wishing you success and happiness. Have a great weekend.